Hi, I'm Richard, and we're at the Open Air Blues Festival in Brezoi. With me is Dana Fuchs from the United States. You've played Janis Joplin off-Broadway and Love Janis, and in 2007, you played in the Beatles-based movie Across the Universe. Tell me some differences between acting in theater and acting in cinema.
Wow, great question. No one's asked me that one before yet either, that I remember. So, for me, theater is more exciting because everything is live, just like, you know, a musical show. So, a music show, you mess up, you recover quickly, you better, or, you know, the stakes are just a little higher when you're on live theater.
The adrenaline push.
Yeah, the adrenaline and the live audience. Making a movie, you know, at one point I realized when we were shooting Across the Universe, now I know why actors make so much money. Because we were not far away from where Nicolas Cage, it was quite cold. We started the movie in late September. We started filming and we were doing the summer scenes. So we were dressed like summer and it was getting quite cold upstate New York. And I heard that just a few miles down the road, Nicolas Cage was being thrown into a cold river every morning at 4 a.m. And I thought, shit, that's why actors make so much money. I do not want this job forever. But I loved making Across the Universe. It was such a gift and a treat, but there's so much standing around, and one scene takes a long time. They have to change the camera. So you find yourself always snacking. I remember I gained a lot of weight. Live theater, you're just moving. It's like,
You dropped out of high school, but now you're getting a master's degree.
I found that out. I love that. Yes. I dropped out of high school because I wanted to tour with a band in my little small southern town in Florida. And I just felt like I needed to get out of my house. There was a lot of craziness going on. So I left high school. I was a straight A student, though. And all the teachers were calling my mom, don't let her do it, don't let her do it. But unfortunately, my mom was so powerless in a crazy family that we had, and I just said, I need to go do this, and then I needed to go to New York. So I hitchhiked a ride with, not really hitchhiked, I asked for a ride for an Italian girl and her mom. I was working at their Italian pizza place. Get me to New York City, and they did. But ever since I arrived, and I did music, and it took me a while to find my way doing music, I always felt like I needed to know more about the world. I just felt like I cheated myself. I needed an education. And when the pandemic hit, I thought about it for so long. And then when the pandemic hit and I couldn't tour, I was home and everything is available online, and I needed to write a new record. And I thought, I don't want to write about the same things I've been writing about. I need to go out into the world and I need to learn. So I went back to school. I finished up. I went back and quickly finished a bachelor's degree, and then I got accepted into a graduate program on full scholarship, which was very exciting. And I'm in the thick of it now. When I'm off the road, I'm home, like writing papers and doing classes. But I feel like I'm finally opening my mind to the rest of the world a little more.
So the lockdown has actually helped you develop also as an artist.
It absolutely did. During the lockdown, you know, I just found my way into school, and then I've always wanted to write, and I wrote a musical play, and I had it read, and it was just the most exciting thing to see your story and your songs and your words done by great actors. I'm in the middle of starting a second play. I took a break because now that the world is opening up, I have to do more with my kids, and I have to tour and make a living. But doing both the writing and of the musical and writing a new album and having school inform that was really, it was just such an eye-opener of, okay, you know, I always imagine the world's big, and I love to think about other people and humanity. That's what I've always written songs about. But then I got to a whole other level of learning about different places, different cultures, different experiences, and just bringing it always back to humanity for me. That's what makes me tick. That's what moves me to write or do anything, is like, where's the humanity? You know, where's the beauty in the pain? We're all having the pain. Where's the suffering? How can we find the empathy? It's just, other people's stories are always what drives me.
Your husband is the bass player and the manager, and you're on the road with both kids, which are small. How can you handle all of this?
It's crazy. You know, my husband only started playing bass with us. I have a European bass player, and he just, when the pandemic hit, he didn't want to get vaccinated, and I understand a lot of people had a lot of fear around it, but he also didn't want to travel for fear of getting the virus. He's 60 now, and I respect that, you know, and so I always said to my husband, he was a great bass player when I met him. You know, we started dating in our late 20s, early 30s, but I said, no, we're never gonna mix it. But then he loves the music, he's such a fan, he's such a supporter. I don't want to travel without my children. I don't want to travel without my family, so it just works out that he's a great bass player, he's managing things, takes care of me and the kids on the road, and does a great job on stage, so. But it's intense. You know, my kids tonight, we brought them backstage. The baby fell asleep, he's 2. My oldest is almost 6. Wanted to stay at the show. The baby's asleep. It was too hot because we're in a heat wave. So there's always, Mom, you know, I want this, and I need this, and I want that. And I'm like, I just need to get on stage. But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And you've gone through drug and alcohol addiction. What is going through cold turkey like?
Well, you know, I have to be honest, I didn't really have an alcohol addiction. I found cocaine pretty quickly, and I didn't drink in those days. I just didn't know much about good wine or anything yet. I was in early 20s, but I got into a situation where I was working in these clubs, dancing, as we call it, and it was a pretty rough environment where, you know, you're making your money almost like a hustle, dancing for men, and cocaine came around and made everything easier. Plus, when you have a body image, and I felt overweight, I was always struggling with weight, I had the cocaine diet plan. So, so I had a short-lived, it was fortunately short-lived because cocaine takes you down fast. And I'm glad for that. I realized like it got me out of this horrible working environment where the money was too much for a 22-year-old to make. I was really 19 to 22 was the period, and I was making thousands of dollars a night, you know. And first of all, before I found the cocaine, I was helping my family, you know, just taking care of my parents, and I have an older brother who was dealing with mental illness. So I was using all of the money for that, got a nice apartment in New York City, then discovered the cocaine, and it was like a really fast fall down a mountain, and I'm grateful. All I have, you know, the only scar I have is a nice hole in my nose, but I learned very quickly, and you know, hitting that kind of bottom very quickly, I think saved my life. Because I haven't touched a drug in over 20 years, not even pot, which I didn't like anyway, it made me paranoid. You know, I like a little wine here and there, but, you know, I like to be in control of my mind.
How did you cross over to Buddhism, and why Buddhism?
You know, being raised Catholic, it didn't make sense. You're sitting in church every Sunday. We had to drive very far to get to this church because we were in a small city in the south, and there weren't a lot of Catholics. I went to a Baptist church, and it was like, oh, well, you don't talk to, they use the N-word, you don't talk to black people. That made no sense. My dad, you know, grew from the Bronx, New York. We were raised in a kind of racist small town down south, and my dad said, no, 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 you don't judge anybody by the color of their skin. But these churches were doing that, and I said, well, how is this God? How would this God you believe in say you're okay, you're not? And I was a weird kid. I really liked bugs, and it would always upset me if kids hurt bugs. So I was kind of a little freak at the time, you know, who would save the cockroach, and I didn't understand. I mean, just my natural heart said, this doesn't make sense. So then I, you know, raised Catholic, tried these Baptist churches, didn't work. And I was like, I give up. But I really wanted a spiritual path. And then when I came out of the drugs and realized, like, I can't do this life on my own. I need something. I want to believe there's a God there. And I remember just praying, God, if you're there, lead me in the right direction. And it was days later, a friend of mine said, there's this Buddhist monastery. It doesn't cost anything. I was broke. You go, you just have to sign all these papers that you won't read, you won't write, you won't listen to music. You will just meditate. You have to take a vow of silence. You have to eat vegetarian. And I was about 23. You know, just knowing drugs are not the answer. Can't do this alone. And I went to this place for 10 days and it blew my mind. And I thought, this makes sense. This is so practical. This is like, oh, what feels better? Kindness to others or me, thinking about me, or thinking about others. And it was the one place where they talked about insects matter. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna be a freaky little girl for saving bugs. And everything about it made sense. That every living creature deserves our love, our respect. And if we all just try to, you know, appreciate that. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if fucking Putin right now could just say every creature matters. There would be no war, there would be no devastation. Hitler, I mean, all of, you know, Trump, all of them. And I think that just makes the most sense. It's idealistic, yeah, it's a utopian wish, but it's not impractical. If we just realize in our heart what matters, and if everybody could do that, I feel like it's common sense. So I found Buddhism through this monastery, and then I came back to Manhattan, and there were no centers, and then I found a center, and I liked the teaching, but it was a little too, they were all like drinking wine and everything after the classes, and I thought, well, I have nothing against people drinking wine. I mean, I like to drink wine too, but this isn't what this is about. And then the leader of that center was brought up on charges for like sexual abuse of minors. I thought, oh shit. So I kept looking, and then I found a center that, it was just one cold, rainy New Year's Eve. And I thought, Buddhism, I typed in Google, Buddhism in New York. And there was this little hole in the wall up 3 flights of stairs. And this woman was teaching. I sat and I just listened. And I just knew, I was like, she's real. She's the real thing. This is not bullshit. She cares, she means it. And then I introduced myself. I went to her class every Thursday night. And then I said, okay, what if I want to go deeper into this? And she sent me to her teacher, who's been my teacher now for 15 years. The real deal.
And you're ambassador for the 𝐁 Foundation. Tell me a little bit about that.
So the 𝐁 Foundation is named, it's called 𝐁 after a young boy named 𝐁, who in 1998 ended his life by suicide. His parents, well-off family. He was at a very popular university in California, Stanford University. Good grades, very popular, handsome guy, had a girlfriend, a lot of friends. Then he just ended his life, and his parents were shocked. So they went to the dean of the university, and they said, did you see any warning signs? We're so shocked. And the dean said, we have thousands of kids here. We can't pay attention.
35,000.
Yeah, we can't see one out of 35,000. Right. So the parents decided at that point, they were in the pharmaceutical business, even owned an island. They devoted all of their time and money into setting up infrastructures in these universities so people can pay attention and have ambassadors all over. Now they even go into high schools. So I was doing a show recently after my sister died by suicide, and I had written a song about it, and the CEO of 𝐁 said, hey, I love your music. I love that song about your sister. Would you come into our office and talk to us about being an ambassador? So I said, of course. What does that mean? Just whenever you're on the stage, tell people it's okay to talk about mental health. You're not a criminal if you're a drug addict. You're not crazy if you have thoughts of depression or anxiety or suicide. You're not crazy. You just need help. You need support. You know, so it's taking the stigma out of what we call mental health issues and understanding that you see somebody in a wheelchair, you open the door for them. But we don't always see a wheelchair in the mind, right? So we just need more awareness.
Your latest album is called Borrowed Time. What does that mean to you, borrowed time?
Well, you know, in Buddhism, we have the Buddhist tradition is to meditate on death every day. And it's not dark, it's not gloomy, it's just understanding I could die today. And if we're honest, and if we get real, any one of us could die today. How do I want this moment to be? And you take it moment by moment. I mean, in Buddhism, we call it our bliss meditation. Because when you understand I could die today, are you really going to have that argument with someone you love?
No.
No. Because they could die today too. And how are you going to feel if they die today? So it's really a matter for me of just... Wait, back to your question. I don't want to digress. So...
Borrowed time.
Borrowed time. Thank you. We're on borrowed time. Any one of us. Initially, we were going to have the album cover, me, sitting on a train track where we were making the album, recording. And then we photoshopped the train right behind me. But our label was like, that's too dark. It's like, the train's coming. You know, in Buddhism we say the tsunami, the big wave of aging, sickness, death, it's coming. And that's not meant to be depressing. It's meant to say, how do I want to live in this moment? Do I want to have that fight? Is it really worth it to feel jealous, to feel angry, to feel greedy, to, you know, and can I talk about my depression with someone else? And then understand, oh, everybody's life looks good on Facebook. That's the highlight reel. What are we all really feeling this shit? And if we all just admit it, that we're on borrowed time, I don't know. Maybe I'm too hopeful, but I do believe that there's a chance, especially now with the news, like it's an onslaught of problems and negativity.
Negative energy.
Negative energy. I finally just said, okay, I will pay attention to the news that needs what we call in Buddhism prayers. It's a different thing than what you hear from Christianity where, you know, we just go out and we try to listen. Try to just tune into the world and understand that every little creature, down to the little beetle, deserves our compassion and our interest in them. Everything needs to be seen and heard and respected. So that's borrowed time. We're all on borrowed time. What are we going to do with it?
You just played at the Open Air Blues Festival in Brezoi. What do you think of the atmosphere and the festival itself?
It was beautiful. It was stunning. I'm so glad that on the way here, the driver said, by the way, we call ourselves the Woodstock of Brezoi. And I said, great. That tells me all I need to know. And literally, I never make a set list, but our drummer hasn't played with us in a long time. So I made a set list. I changed it entirely. We didn't do half of it. I saw the audience and I thought, no. I don't like making set lists because you have to predetermine what your crowd is. And that's why I got close and I was like, let me just look at their faces and look in their eyes. Ah, shit, this is not the song I want to do. This is the story I want to do tonight. So my drummer, he did great. It was totally different songs than he was supposed to play. But I loved it because I was so glad to get that tip. The Woodstock, great.
Thank you for your time. Good luck with the music and your life. And
I need that one. Thank you.
we're We're waiting for you to come on down to the Open Air Blues Festival in Brezoi.
Brezoi. Brezoi?
Brezoi.
Brezoi.
Yeah.
Brezoi.
Exactly.
It's magical here.